Good day friends, my name is Venkatrangan Thirumalai and you can follow me at tncv.me or at Venkatarangan in Twitter. In today's talk, I'm going to be covering about something that's very important for us in these pandemic days. All of us are connected and meeting our friends virtually, and one of the most important thing is the connectivity. We might have a broadband connection, a fiber that's 100-200 Mbps, but if the wireless connection from that onto our laptop, our devices, mobile phones is not good, then we kind of lose out on those sessions. So what do we do to improve this connection? Our ISP gives the connectivity, but how do we get a good Wi-Fi signal onto our houses? And you might have noticed I used two different words here. First the wireless and then Wi-Fi. Even our mobile phones, when we step out our phones, take a call, it works on wireless signals. These are signals like what your radio works on. We have listened to shortwave radios, say when I was a kid, from Australia, from Singapore, from US also. Those are very long distance waves. They travel long distances. They are called short waves. Let's not get into the technicality. But then why is that when those waves can come from very far? We have even wireless signals that are going to a spacecraft that is in Mars. Why is it it's not working when I have a wireless device in my next room but it's not connecting? So that's what we are going to be talking briefly and what you can do to improve it. In this talk, there are multiple ways. I'll just talk about one particular set of device called mesh networks. Now, wireless and Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi is the technology that we actually use in unlicensed bandwidth. This is bandwidth that each one of us can use. It's not licensed. Otherwise, all our spectrums, our telcos pay crores and crores, thousands of crores to license those spectrum wireless ranges from government. But this is a range that has been opened up for all of us. But the problem with that is it only travels short distances. So the idea is your wireless signal doesn't travel to your neighbor. But if you're in an apartment, there can be congestion between each one of us because the apartments are very closer. And your cordless phone also uses the same unlicensed Wi-Fi range, which is typically 2.4 gigahertz, but that's just pure technicality. Now, what do we need to do is earlier devices that we are using in your house, you have to manually set channels and all that so that your cordless doesn't interfere with this or your neighbor's Wi-Fi doesn't interfere with this and all that. Today's devices are much more intelligent. Now the first important thing is your ISP will be giving you a device something like this. This is from Airtel and it's got multiple ports here. As you can see, there are multiple ports. There is a blue color one which you can see, and that's this one, the one here, and that's the WAN port. If you have a broadband, if you have a fiber optics, then that's where they will bring this cable and connect. And these are your cables where your ports where you can connect your laptops and stuff. These are called your LAN or Ethernet ports. The one here is the ADSL port or your telephone jack. The gray color one, which is here, typically gives about speed of 8 Mbps, but they work over copper cables that your normal landline phones use. The advantage with them is they are very fault tolerant, they work even in drains and all that, whereas these fiber optics and the other technology, though the technology itself is good, but the way they are implemented by the ISPs, they are prone to a little bit of downtimes. So once your ISP connects your broadband to either this blue one or the gray one, then this device acts as something called as a modem that connects from the signals from the ISP onto your signal. Typically modems are analog to digital, but then they're also in fiber. It's a different thing from optic to digital, but let's not get into that. Once you convert it, then there has to be somebody who's able to get all the signals from your house, all the devices from your house, and then send it outside and then collect all those and then give it to your respective devices. Send it, okay, there is a request from your phone that went out to Google and Google has said something, so that has to be given to the phone. There is a request to Microsoft.com from your laptop that has to go to Microsoft, and then the reply from Microsoft has to go back to your laptop. Somebody has to do the traffic police, traffic cop routing. That is what your router does. So these three devices from the ISPs, your telcos, now do about three jobs. Earlier there used to be individual devices, but these ones do three jobs. First is the modem, which I talked about. The second one is the routing that sends your traffic out and then collects the outside traffic and then gives it to your individual devices. And the third one they do is convert your cable that comes here, the copper physical cable or your fiber cable, onto wireless signals that your phone can connect wireless without any cable. That is called as a wireless access point. So this thing does three things: modem, router, wireless. What we want to do is, in enterprises, all these three things are done by multiple devices. There is something for modem, something for router, something on top of routers, firewalls, rules, etc. There are controllers and all that. And also there is multiple access points. You might have seen devices on top of like fire alarms in big corporates. They are multiple access points. They are wireless. So in corporates there are multiple devices to do, but for in our house this one thing does all the three. But the problem with this wireless signal from this box only goes to the devices for a short distance, not for a long distance. As I said, Wi-Fi is an unlicensed 2.4 gigahertz signal that's supposed to be only for short ranges. They are not supposed to be for long distances. So you can't put a Wi-Fi device and have your next street father-in-law use the connectivity from your house. That's not how it's supposed to work, and it won't work. So, but how do I enhance the signal that I've got this device, the modem, router, wireless access point from the ISP, but I want to use it in my next room, but the signal is weaker there? How do I use it? That's where you got to put multiple access points. And some of the things that you read from abroad, say Australia, UK, US, websites and videos, they doesn't apply very well to Indian households, because our houses typically in India are brick construction, solid walls. For example, in my house, I have 9 inches and even 12 inches walls at some places. 12 inches. So the wall is so thick with concrete and brick. Wireless signals don't travel very well through bricks and concrete. They travel a little bit better over floors which are wooden or walls which are wooden. So what is applicable in the US, UK? The technology is the same, but the ranges, they said it's 50 feet. It doesn't work the same way in India because these are thick walls. So we might need to put more access points than what somebody in a wooden house will be able to do. Now what we do, once you realize you need more of these access points, you don't need to buy these things. ISPs typically have these. You can buy them, but then you don't need them. You only need the out of the three functionalities, you only need the last one for your houses, which is the wireless access point. So what you need to do is connect a cable from this yellow ones, and you can also connect them wireless, but then as I said, wireless is a congested resource, so you don't want to have your access points also talk to this over wireless. If you want to connect them using cable, cable is always better, remember that. So you connect a cable from here, a cable, this is called an Ethernet cable. These are available in Amazon and Flipkart pretty easily. So you connect this onto this one, and then the other end you take it and connect to a device like this. This is called an Ethernet switch. I've got here is a 24 port Ethernet switch. This is about 5,000, 6,000 rupees, available in many of the e-commerce sites, but you can get for 2,000, 3,000 ones and 8 port ones. Typically for an apartment with 3 bedroom, an 8 port ones should be more than enough. That's about 1,000, 2,000 rupees available in all the e-commerce sites. So the other end you connect here. Now what happens is, then you can connect as many devices as you want from here wired, but then you have to run lengthy cables from that. You can buy pretty much these cables. Ethernet works to 100 feet or even more. Of course, you don't want to run your cable from this to your sister's house in 2 streets away. You're not supposed to do that. Only licensed telcos and cable TV operators can do that. So once you connect here, once you connect to the switch, a cable, then from the ISP's router, modem, access point, you can connect another cable and take it to your next room, and there you can put these access points. As you can see, they also have a WAN port, and this doesn't have a modem, but it does routing and wireless. So there are also devices which will be only about access point. That's what we are going to be talking at the end of this talk. That's about mesh networks. Now once you connect, so what you want to do is from the switch, connect the cable here into this yellow ones, not to the WAN ones, because your WAN routing is already done by your ISP's modem, router and access point. So a cable from this yellow onto this yellow is what you have to connect. You can also connect them directly, or you can put the switch that I talked about. Switch is not 100% necessary. Switch is needed if you want to connect more than this 4 ports that are available here. So once you connect here, then you got to configure them as an access point alone. Switch off the routing features, only have them work as access point. Configuration typically is sending your SSID, which is your network name, and then setting up your password. So once you do that, you can, your wireless devices like your mobile phones, your laptops can all connect to them wirelessly. So that's what you do. But these devices typically cost about 1,500. You have these access points. But the problem is if you start putting the next one, you have one of these access points, you put one more, you have to configure the second one individually, go into the configuration connect. This will have an SSID name and username and password. This will have an SSID username and password. These two will also have congestion between them because they will also be using the same 2.4. Of course, in 2.4 there are channels. These devices are smart enough to switch between the channels, but still you will have problems. You will have to configure them individually, and configuring these access points are not for the faint-hearted. They require some amount of engineering experience. So the better thing to do is, that's why the talk of the day comes, is you buy devices like this, which are called mesh networks. This is the one from TP-Link called Deco M5. This in India I bought 3 of them for about 12,500 rupees a couple of months back. Today they're available when I'm recording June 2021. They costed about 14,000 rupees in Amazon. They're available, but then you will also start having some offers later. So this has about 3 devices. You just want 2, then it costs about 10,000 rupees. The beauty with these access points, you can buy more. I have in my house about 9 of them. I just bought 3 packs, each of them 3, so I've got 9. I've put it in, mine is a 3,000 square feet, 2 floor house, individual house with brick walls. So I got to put multiple in the 3 bedrooms and in my kitchen, bedroom, and the terrace. And my garage, I put access points so that when I do walking, I'll have good Wi-Fi coverage and all that. So you can buy as many of them. Unlike the access points where you have to individually connect and configure, here you just, the device looks like this. They are also very beautiful. They are just small devices like this. Okay, please ensure you don't put it on a coffee table, otherwise your users might be using it for a cigarette thing or for keeping a coffee. They shouldn't think it as a toaster. And they're pretty small, very convenient. They just have a power point you need to connect. There are ones which can take power over your Ethernet cable also, but those are expensive. So these are household ones where you have to separately connect to a charger. And then there are 2 Ethernet ports. So what you do is, from either your ISP's thing, from this yellow, you connect a cable, like your Ethernet cable I was talking about, from your ISP's thing, connect to the ISP and then connect here. Or you can actually put it to the switch and then from the switch connect here. Once you have done these, this access point, as I said, there is 3 of them in this particular pack. So you can put one in your bedroom, one in your working room, one in your kitchen, and then connect all of them onto your ISP's thing. There are already 4 ports in the one that I've got from Airtel. Many of these ISP devices have at least 4 ports, so you won't need, but if you need more than 4 of those, you need the second pack, and you also need the switch that I talked about, Ethernet switch. Just bring the cable, connect, and they have, all of them have all of these. So this one, this access point, this set is actually called the mesh network. So okay, so the advantage with a mesh, unlike an individual access point that I talked about, where you have to configure each one of them individually, this one you just use a mobile app in Android or iOS, configure them once, put a username and password, and then you connect as many of this. Just keep connecting cables and go to your app and say there's a new device. It will automatically detect them and then configure the username, password, everything for you. And the other advantage, because it's a single controlled from your app, you can see all the devices that are connecting. You have children, you can do parental controls. There's a little bit of antivirus support also on these devices, so that will give you a bit of protection. Of course, always it's better to have some kind of protection on a laptop or something with an antivirus, but then for your mobile phones, this does a bit of thing. And the advantage with this model from TP-Link is that any of this can be the first device, any of them can be the second at the n number of devices. That doesn't need to be the, you don't need to buy what is called as a controller individually. Each of them can actually work as a controller and also as a client device, but that's purely a technicality, these client and controllers. You can all control them from the app. So that's with this TP-Link. There are multiple models. This is one model, Deco M5, that I bought, as I talked about the price, but there are more advanced models also if you want to spend. But typically for a household with 3-4 people or with 10 to 20, 30 devices, this model should work more than fine. This has support for Wi-Fi 5 and WPA2, PSK support. That's the security you need to use. Always when it comes to security, the higher version numbers are better. If the device support shows WPA, WPA2, WPA3, then always go for WPA3. Of course, you choose something as latest as WPA3, which this device doesn't have, then your device also, your Android, iOS, or your laptop should also support. So WPA2 PSK is currently the one which is good enough for all household purposes. Then once you configure them, it's actually just a matter of connecting all your devices wireless. And these things also does this. I was talking about congestion, right? Even if you put multiple of this, how will the congestion be handled? These devices are intelligent because they form a part of a single network. They can actually optimize the channels that they are using without you doing anything. So that's the advantage of using these mesh networks. If you don't want TP-Link, you want choices, there is Netgear Orbi products which are also available in India. You can buy them. If you have a friend abroad, you can ask them to bring you Google's Nest, which is very user-friendly to use, but they are not officially sold in India. Or you can also buy Amazon Heroes, which again is not officially sold in India. You have to buy them abroad. The top of the end line in these networks, wireless networks, is by multiple companies. One of the very popular one is a company called Ubiquiti. Their website is ui.com, as in user interface, ui.com. You can go and buy them, but then they are very, for the advanced users, they need a controller and they need multiple access points. Typically a 7 to 9 access point thing from ui.com will cost you somewhere closer to a lakh or even more than that. So that's the advantage with these low-cost devices, which is good enough for my purposes. There are also devices from TP-Link and Netgear which also support Alexa. So if you've got a smart home, you want to talk to these devices, then they also have got support for them. So spend some time. There are lots of videos on YouTube on how to configure them, and even in my blog venkatrangan.com I've written about how you can choose your networks and how you can configure them. But I recommend you go with a mesh network. You need any advice, your ISP's engineer who comes and supports, he will also be able to recommend you mesh networks. So just kind of summarizing, your ISP will give you a device like this. From the blue one or the blue port or the gray port is where they will connect their cable. The yellow ones is where you can actually cable like this. So you connect a cable onto that, and then you take the other end. You have to run it across the room and then connect it to a mesh network like this. So you have to connect, the other one you can leave it free. So you don't need to use them unless you have a need for it. So once you do that and then configure with your app, you're all set. Just remember, when you use your SSID and the password, SID can be shorter, it doesn't matter, that's your network name. But the password, try to keep it as long as possible. You're not going to type it every day. You're going to type it once and then you're going to just copy them, and all the devices will remember that. Your neighbor's wireless password is weaker. It's good for you because you can use their connectivity, but your wireless password is weaker, then it's a problem. They'll be using this. And if your neighbor or somebody in your street, they are able to get your signal, there is something called as people driving by and get the signal, and then they'll use it for malicious purposes, then you will get caught because your household device is the internet connectivity which was used to do that illegal activity. So always try to keep your wireless passwords longer. And if you have friends coming in often, they want to share your wireless, then you can, in these devices, you can also create something called as guest network, which means the guest can have a separate wireless username, wireless SSID and a password, but they can only connect to the internet, but they can't see your other devices. Whereas your internal devices can talk to each other. What is a typical example? You have a smart TV and you have a smartphone, you want to share something as Chromecast or from an Apple device, you want to cast them or AirPlay onto your smart TV. Those you want to do it on your network, which is your primary SSID, but your guest won't have those access. They can just browse the internet and access. So you can keep an SSID for you, and you can also keep a SSID separately for your guest. So those are some of the things. I hope this demonstration is kind of useful to you. So have a good wireless connectivity in your house and have a great day. Thank you.